So Stephanie, one of the things about being a military defense lawyer, even a civilian defense lawyers, you have clients that come in and they're like, you know what, I did it. I did everything that they're accusing me of doing. I was just going through a terrible time in my life. Is there anything we can do about it? And uniquely in the military, we put a lot of weight into extenuation and mitigation when it surrounds misconduct. So even if a client is dead to rights in terms of what they did wrong, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the road for them.
Correct. And I think a huge piece of that is a lot of service members are either ashamed or afraid to come forward and say that this happened. And they need to understand that there are other avenues to help them continue serving and help them move forward with whatever they're facing.
Right. So when we talk about extenuation and mitigation, while they're separate concepts, they really merge at some point. Extenuating circumstances are like the broader context of what surrounds the misconduct. While it doesn't rise to the level of a defense, it kind of lets you know, hey, this is what was going on at the time. Mitigating circumstances, on the other hand, are kind of those circumstances that kind of negate the culpability or provide justification, not to the level of a defense, but just kind of, hey, here's what my mind was about, here's what was going on about the context of the actual misconduct. In practice, those kind of merge, right?
Correct. I think a lot of the times with extenuating circumstances, a potential argument, I had a choice between two wrong answers, right? And I chose the one that was the less, the one that would have the less consequences on whoever was involved. And then when it comes to mitigation, really just kind of explaining what that person was going through at the time, and hoping that the reader sees through, mitigation arguments that they shouldn't be judged by this one particular thing because it's not truly indicative of who they are as a service member.
Right. That's an isolated incident in an unusual circumstance. We found that one of the most compelling things that you can do in a mitigation and extenuation case is just own it, right? Step up to the plate and accept responsibility. And then you look for some of the other things like, was the person an alcoholic? Were they under the influence of alcohol or some other type of drug? I will tell you that we've dealt with a lot of alcohol-related incidents in the practice. And I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I know the whole story behind things you do when you're drunk and things you don't do when you're sober. So there's a whole component there of, is this an example of a bigger problem that the Army should address, or is this really a misconduct issue, right?
Right, and I think something I really can't stress enough, as I've been in a position many times where I have been the legal advisor to the person reading these arguments, to the officer reading these arguments, is that it's really valuable to be the soldier or the service member that steps forward and says, you know what, this did happen, I am going to take responsibility for it. Taking accountability is something that the military loves for their service members to do, and having a good attorney that can help you say those things and not have that be the end of the story is super important.
Right, and those individuals who make the decisions as to what to do next, look for what have you done proactively on your own to address your problems, right?
Correct.
What counseling are you seeking? What type of proactive steps have you taken to solve a problem that you've identified?
Correct.
Right? And we can help, as your lawyers, we can help guide you through, hey, here's some good things that you can do to help solve your own problems. Because at the end of the day, if we solve someone's legal problem, if we get a GOMAR filed locally, but we haven't helped them address the underlying issues of whether it's alcoholism or PTSD or some other mental health issue, it's only going to reemerge, whether it's in the military or with their family life or their health later. And we haven't done them the service of being good lawyers if we just limit our advice to what they do legally.
Correct. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that, all the services do have resources for people who are struggling. And stepping forward to utilize them isn't something that should be punished or isn't something that should be shamed. And a lot of times when service members say, hey, I need to utilize this resource, that is something that can be used to kind of mitigate their circumstances, what happens at the end of the
And in
adverse
the
action.
Army and the other services, one of the huge mitigating factors is duty performance, right? How well do they perform in their particular field? So somebody who's an outstanding duty performer, getting a series of character letters, those evaluations, on-the-spot awards, those type of things have a huge, huge impact on what will happen. How does this action affect the family, right? What kind of impact will it have long-term on that family, not just the service member?
Correct, and I've seen that kind of on both sides. I've seen separation boards give a more favorable discharge characterization based on those exact things. I know that this person did this. He seems to have really taken accountability and responsibility for it. I don't want this one action to prevent his family from receiving these benefits down the road. And I've, after boards had board members tell me that that's something that they consider.
Right, and one of the other things that boards and CGs look at when they're looking at a mitigation case is, how did the soldier get here? What adversity was overcome? What childhood trauma was overcome? What obstacles have they overcome to get to where they are now, right? Because the steeper the grade to get where you are, right, the more credit that you get in terms of the mitigation case.
Right.
So it's really important to share that information with your lawyers.
Right. I mean, it really speaks to the service member's character, which I think is very important for whoever's reading the submission.
Right. And then, of course, if there are any victims involved, showing remorse for those victims or the effect of your own misconduct, I think goes a long way on a mitigation strategy too. If you're facing adverse action and you really committed the misconduct and the only thing you have left to do is to present an extenuation or mitigation case, give us a call. We are the law office of Will M. Helixon. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation, we defend you.